Welcome to Real Men in Real Estate. I am Brian Fox, your host, and as always, this is your source for all things real estate. And today we have a great topic and a great group of men, and we're going to be talking about the world of value and appraisal. So really quickly, I'm going to introduce my guys. This is Stephen Matley. He is the president and founder of Coast to Coast Equities. And next to him is Mark Ingraffia of Ingraffia Home Inspections. And finally, our panelist expert today on appraisal, Tim MacBride of MacBride Appraisal. Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for coming. Real quickly, appraisal. So we're going to talk about value, and Tim, we're probably going to go to you most with this content. But real quickly, give us an idea of what appraisal is, how it fits into the entire real estate project, and how that protects value.
Well, an appraisal is valuing, it's an opinion of value of real estate, and it can be anywhere from a vacant piece of land to a high-rise commercial building. I do mostly residential buildings, and the appraisal works most generally in the lending world. It also is in the estate and trust world, but generally an appraisal will be done for a lender before they make a loan. So they don't want to make a loan more than the value or a certain portion of the value of that property.
So it's an opinion of value. How do you come into an opinion? So we'll speak mainly on residential then, but how do you come into an opinion of value? How do you do that?
There's several different ways. There's three basic methods to determine the value: the sales comparison approach, the income approach, or the sales comparison approach would be the most common, and the cost approach would be the third way. Typically, you would use the sales comparison approach, which is taking the most similar sales to the property that you're appraising that are the most recent, the most similar in that have of the factors, the more dominant factors, whether it's the living area, you want to come close in living area, location, obviously to start with, living area, if there's views, quality, condition.
Like in kind, I think is the way they call it, right? Like in kind.
Yes,
what's like in kind?
In a perfect world, you'd have three houses exactly the same, on the same side of the same street, that all sold in the last 3 months for the same price, and then you could have a pretty good idea. That's a really good indication of the value of the one you're doing the appraisal on.
Very good.
Never happens that way.
And I work, I work in residential a lot. I know that Steve works mainly in land, but I'm sure he touches residential quite a bit. And Mark, we work on a lot of projects together, and it's a lot of residential commercial. But I wouldn't mind hearing what things detriment value. How do you get into the process of trying to figure out how your adjustment, because I know in the adjustments, it's a negative sign, and most people can't read that. It takes value away. How do you explain to somebody what we're actually doing when we're appraising, we hand you an appraisal?
Well, I am going to go into the house, I go do the appraisal, physical inspection generally. Sometimes they're a drive-by, it can be, but a physical inspection. And so you're going to look at the quality and the condition of the interior. I start with the exterior, the roof, make sure everything is, generally those things are fairly equal within the neighborhood, not always, depending on the age of the neighborhood. The interior of the house, the quality of the materials, the condition of the materials, the size of the house, but generally I would be comparing similar size houses to each other. So how does it compare to the ones that have sold recently?
Yeah. What about home inspection? I mean, the stuff that Mark looks for, he's going to give me a list of stuff that's exactly the opposite of what you're doing. You're going to send me value. He's going to send me, this is not valuable.
Yeah.
Go ahead, yeah.
Well, I was thinking I more look at the actual physical condition as, a major to a minor issue. I think you look more just,
right. Well,
does it look newer or not?
If I see something that looks like it might be a significant issue, I send it to Mark. That's out of my area of expertise. I'll make a notation that there appears the potential for something, and just make a notation of it that a home inspector is recommended for this.
Yeah, so home inspection, we're looking for, deficiencies, the countertops being broken, versus I think appraisal, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's more types of countertops, for example, in a kitchen. So is it granite, is it, just a stone, or is it just a laminate? There's different conditions as far as price goes.
Right, no, absolutely.
Okay,
so
good.
I have a question on the residential, because when I was a contractor, I did most of my work behind the gates of clubs out in the Coachella Valley.
Right.
And I mentioned my brother-in-law, he's an appraiser out there. He specializes in those kind of one-of-a-kind, unique homes, sometimes with a known architect. How do you get in and appraise something when there is no comp for it? There's something unique about it.
Those are challenges. There's no doubt that those are challenges that it takes a little more time, more time, more research, better knowledge of the area. If you weren't feeling confident in that type of an area, I would say you probably should pass it on to somebody who didn't do it, because those are challenging and unique type properties. So you would have to have a good awareness and knowledge of that specific
So does that go to
area.
things like neighborhood and what the structure's made of and the level of finishes and those type of things?
Well, if you're talking about within a certain communities, golf communities, and you would want to stick within the same community if you could.
Right.
And then also, of quality. These houses are all will be completely different styles, most likely. Architecturally.
Different styles, but all high quality, but very different materials.
Right.
Right.
And it's hard to determine in the market. Everything is market driven. Was the Spanish style house more valuable than the contemporary style house versus the plantation style house? And that is
So some trendiness goes into it.
it can, and it's everything is market driven. If I see that those 4 contemporary houses sold at higher values than the Mediterranean style houses in that particular area, I would take that into consideration. Or
So you actually do take that into consideration? Because I found myself getting in scuffles with people because they don't take trendiness into consideration. Because what I can do with the house, I say, okay, we're going to fix this, and that, and make it look a certain way. I know what the consumer is going to come in and pay for it. But I get in these things with appraisers typically, and maybe it's because it just goes through the order system, and it's just out to a guy, and they're just appraising on the spot. But I have found that they don't do trendiness. So you're saying they actually do appraise at trendiness?
there's on the form, there is not a spot that says
That's what I'm saying,
trendiness. No,
right.
there is appeal.
Oh, okay.
And
Which is still subjective.
It's subjective. It is subjective, and I try
Totally
to not.
subjective.
That is one that is a difficult. It's so subjective
yeah, 'cause-
that I would stay away from it as much as possible.
Yeah.
I was only speaking of that in a unique situation.
But appeal could also be historically significant building. That was
Right.
maybe it's, again, maybe a known architect designed it or something. Those could be things that affect appeal and value that aren't really part of the house.
It's very true.
I do have a question, because I actually end up doing rebuttals every once in a while.
Right.
And would I be able to rebuttal appeal?
Well, you can rebuttal anything.
Yes, I know, but would they
Yes.
take that in consideration with my rebuttal?
If it was justified, and you would, if you were going to do a rebuttal on that, it would be nice probably to see your reasoning behind the rebuttal.
Yeah.
If you provided some information that on your reasoning behind the rebuttal.
So we're going to take a quick break, but I am going to
Okay.
tell a story that I had to do a crazy rebuttal. It took me 2 hours to do it.
Okay.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back right here on Real Men of Real Estate.
Hey guys, how are you today?
Good.
I'm here to talk about how with technology you can make amazing worlds. Come with me. My team and I bring the Halo world to life.
Is that you?
That is me. I wasn't a math genius and I knew nothing about coding. But you guys do. You guys have the power to change things.
I want your job.
I want you to have my job.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.
Welcome back to Real Men of Real Estate. I am your host, Brian Fox, and we just got done talking about the basics of appraisal and how one determines value, and now we're actually going to get into the next subject, was how do you increase or improve the value of your home. So just when we broke, I was actually about to jump into a story that I wanted to get your opinion on. So we're talking about rebuttal. And so when it comes to trendiness is where value is in my market, in my stuff. And in each person's thing, it's what is selling now. And so, 10, 15 years ago, Spanish was like everywhere. Everything was Venetian, everything was Spanish. Newport Coast in Southern California was just being developed, and all that was considered very trendy. But now there's a very modern farmhouse and modern design kind of going through. So we have the ability to impact that by giving clients some direction on what to do. But I do find that I come to times where what I think is valuable as the sales agent who knows what I can sell it for versus what the appraiser thinks is valuable based on an opinion of what's selling might differ, and I have to do this thing called rebuttal. Well, there was one situation where I had a client who was buying a Cliff May property. If you live anywhere in the area, you know what a Cliff May is, because he was the father of open concept, modern, mid-century design. And he was building a lot during the Silicon Valley boom era. And my client bought one, and they didn't like his value, and I could easily demonstrate that all Cliff Mays sell for 10 to 15% over market compared to their neighbors by picking some neighborhoods in Southern California and show them this stuff. And he said no. And so I want to pose it to you. Well, one, obviously, how you show value, because that was a thing that, appeal, those are very appealing. People want them. It's desirable. It's a commodity. And so that's one way of value, but other was upgrades. So kind of pitching that to you, talking about how something is made more valuable. How do you do that? How do you look at the appeal of one property that is instinctively more valuable because of what it is? And how do you embed more value when you're embedding, let's say, trendiness in the things that I know that I want a client to do?
Right. Well, first I'll start off in Cliff May.
Yeah.
If the market shows in that specific case that those houses are worth more money than are higher values, then an appraisal is the market dictates the appraisal. And unfortunately, the lenders do want to have comparable sales that are within a certain reasonable amount of time, and maybe there wasn't any.
Oh, I had a whole neighborhood.
Yes, you had a whole neighborhood. I was just trying to cut the appraiser on the slack there. But it's not always available. But if the market shows it, the market is what value is based on what's out there in the market.
Gotcha.
As far as what to do to increase the value is what you're asking?
Yeah, well, what things make a home more valuable? Like, for instance, a lot of people think a pool is like the thing on an appraisal. I try to explain, it's not the thing. I mean, it's very valuable to consumers based upon how hot the day is, but in general, it's not. There's several things that you think are more valuable that aren't, so just kind of that.
Well, I think you need to look at the market you're in. I mean, historically, you look at the numbers, and a pool is one of the least return on the dollar investments you can make. For most neighborhoods, you could find some neighborhoods where a pool is more desirable. I think the numbers, you start off with the kitchens and the bathrooms, I think, are the two areas that you don't ever want to over-improve something. That's a mistake that people do make, is spending too much money for their neighborhood. And because upgrading your house does cost money. You generally don't want to spend too much money, more than the neighborhood will support.
Gotcha.
Going back on the pool, I mean, when you take into consideration the value of a house with the pool, do you ever take into consideration the actual physical condition of a pool? If it's a pool that's there, it's, say, 10, 15,000, but do you get into, well, the pool's going to need replastering and all the equipment is older, and do you take that into consideration, I guess? I
try and take everything into consideration, but it's hard to itemize each specific issue. But yes, an overall condition, the pool, because a pool that needs a lot of work is not as worth as much as a pool that's up and working. Brand new. So I would definitely take it into consideration.
And there's pools that are a hole in the ground with water, and there's pools that are resort caliber type pools. And I think, so pools will add value, but they don't add as much value as the cost of putting them in, is what you're saying.
Right. Well, yesterday I did an appraisal, and this gentleman, he had a pool, all the bells and whistles, and in an area of about $1 million houses. He told me he had spent $700,000 on his on his pool, his slide, his cave, the gazebo. And so you see a very wide range of what people will spend.
So let's use that as an example. Is he getting that value back?
His 700.
Well, you have to stay on TV. But,
yes, but not yet. I haven't finished the appraisal yet.
That's okay. But would someone else who did that, let's say they spent they made a zoo in the backyard, right? So everybody's got, maybe he has a giant aviary, because I've seen that.
Right.
An aviary with a bunch of pigeons in it. He thinks it's great. Is there any value in that?
Only to somebody else that would want
it. You're exactly right.
I think
generally,
it's hydropons, and and all the stuff people put in that's unique to them.
Yeah. Well, actually, here's the thing. So putting greens, koi ponds. What else do we see? Like the stuff that people put in there, like
elaborate play equipment.
The elaborate play equipment, all this stuff. Yeah.
The fire circles.
Yeah, fire circles.
Permitted room addition in the back.
Actually, I'll even go say stamped concrete, because there's stuff you could do that's way more valuable to the public that's not stamped concrete. Is, what is it, $3 a foot, per inch?
Especially if it's
3 linear,
colored and textured and stamped.
Yeah, it's expensive, and you don't. So just real quick,
epoxy coated.
paint. I've seen some crazy stuff that you just don't get back. So my question is, the things that people think are valuable, I've heard that putting greens are one of the more valuable things you can put in.
I think so. You know, the cost. It's hard, and when I'm doing an appraisal, to find the other houses that have a putting green on them, but you would try and have backyard amenities. You know, because that is I think different backyard amenities, whether it's a nice patio, a putting green, a barbecue, built-in barbecue, those are all nice amenities that add value generally.
More elaborate things like, say, a tennis court or a sport court.
Right.
Would you get that money back? Because those are expensive to
Those
put
are
in.
very expensive. It all depends on the neighborhood. If you're in a neighborhood where people do like tennis courts, you would probably see a better return on it. But if you're in a neighborhood where nobody plays tennis or is going to buy into that neighborhood.
So, and I hear what you're saying. So it sounds like if I'm hearing you correctly, if there's no relevant of value in the neighborhood you're in, you're going to be investing, and you might, the value is there for what you spent, but because you're anchored to the values in the area, it depresses your return on the value. But if you're in a neighborhood, so if I'm in a neighborhood that everything's $1.5 million, I may be $1.5 million, but if I put another 40 or 50 in, I'm better off getting that return out of that number because of the higher values.
Well, and I think that is overall the biggest mistake I see people make is spending more on their improvements than the neighborhood will support.
And I've seen that people put in like the RV amenities, the setups, all the plugins and everything, or the really tricked out shop in the garage. And I don't know that, it looks great, but I don't know that the value is there. You know, they spent tens of thousands of dollars on these things.
Right, and if that's what they want to do
For their house, yes.
for their house, then if you're talking strictly dollars and cents, maybe not, and that's a juggle that a homeowner needs to understand that it's not.
And my favorite is the jacuzzi tub.
Those are great.
That nobody ever uses.
If you inherit it, it's great. You put it in.
I have one just kind of general question. As far as the plumbing aspect of a house, it's a topic that I'm really sensitive on. So say a homeowner puts repipes their entire home. Is there a good return on investment as far as value goes?
There are so few homes that would sell that have been replumbed, depending on the age. If it's a 1920s house that has been all replumbed and redone with the top of the line, then it would
Increase the value
increase
a
the
little
value more. If you have a house that's
It's just straight galvanized original plumbing.
right, and you're the only one that has that, you might not show the return on that if in a neighborhood where, even though it's a benefit,
Yeah.
it's hard to know without market data to support
That's
what
good.
what that would be.
I think that's good information to know for sure.
And what about things like fire suppression systems? Does that add value to a house?
Everything. I mean, any addition like that should add some value. It's tough to draw that out of the market. That to have one item specifically that it.
I think that
There's very little market
The
data.
other, there's solar panels is a big thing, and people
Right.
think it's going to add a lot of
Right. Yeah,
lot of
solar
value.
panels do. I mean,
do they actually pay for themselves that way?
over time.
Okay.
But the market does show that and if you own your solar panels, that there's it's a financial benefit to that, and within the market.
Gotcha.
Different marketplaces have different values, but overall, I would say what I've seen in the market is that solar panels, you get more value with solar panels. You might not get what you paid.
Okay, and on that, I'm sorry, do got to cut it because we have got to get to a commercial break. But we'll be right back in just a few moments on Real Men of Real Estate.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
My text to emoji ratio has gotten a little out of hand.
A little.
Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.
First time I tried Vicodin, it was laying around my mom's house. I didn't know they'd be this addictive. I didn't know how far I'd go to get more. Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.
Hi, welcome back to Real Men in Real Estate. I am Brian Fox, your host, and in our last segment, we're going to get some final thoughts regarding value and appraisal, but we're also going to give you some real good takeaways that you can take home about if you're intending to sell your home quickly or soon, what are the things you should concentrate on to add value, and what things should you ignore from your list of things to do? So we're going to get right back into it. Real quick, let's just chat about the last couple things we're going to go. So I'm going to start with you, my friend. What is the best stuff that we can do if I'm a seller trying to hit the market now to concentrate on?
So you want to maximize the value of
Yes.
your house with spending the least amount of dollars as possible. Take a step back, I think, and what would somebody want to see in this house who would be interested in? Put yourself in the shoes of the potential buyer for that house, and start there. And you do want to clean up we talked earlier, the kitchens and the bathrooms, but you probably wouldn't want to go overboard. You would, a full kitchen remodel, a full bath remodels are expensive. Maybe look at just updating some things. And curb appeal is always important in a sale. It sharpen up your house a little bit.
Coat of paint.
Coat of paint works wonders. If a couple of carpeted bedrooms or the carpet's old, you can put some new carpet in pretty cheap. And if you've had a pet that lived in there, you don't need a reminder of that. You had a pet living in that room.
Very good. Mark, what do you think? What are some things, I mean, from your perspective, you have a different perspective on the stuff, but I'd like to hear it.
I mean, personally, I think it's desirable to know that certain aspects of a home have been redone. So plumbing is a big one. Knowing that a house is going to last for a while, repiping, or knowing that the pipes are good. The other items are going to be more the superficial, just knowing that you have a fresh coat of paint on things and fresh carpet, fresh flooring. Those are key incentives.
Very good. Steve, what do you think?
I agree with some of that. Like roofs are a big deal to me because you don't want to be redoing that roof a year after you move in. But there's a philosophy when you go to fix up a house. One is, why wait till you're going to sell it to someone else to do all the fixes that you put all that money in? Put some money in while you live there and enjoy living in it. And there are the things you're going to do for your house that you don't care if anybody else enjoys because it's your home. There's other things you're going to do to build the long-term value. So when Tim comes in, he's going to give more value to it. And in those things, educate yourself to what people are looking for. What are the trends? What do people like? And the majority, on an average, what do more people like and willing to spend more money for? And concentrate on those things if that's what you're looking at selling this house in the near future.
Yeah, for me, it's all based upon desirability and marketability. So it's very much lifestyle. When everybody lives anywhere, they're looking about what life am I going to have here. Believe it or not, they will not buy something based upon things they think are going to annoy them. In my experience, it's the non-negotiables, thing that they don't want to have happen that kill the house. And we talked about on a previous show, people move out because someone's smoking next door. That's just one item. It's not even in their house. So for me, it has to do with lifestyle. If they want to do the outdoor barbecue pit stuff, do it. But do it in a way that if you had to update it, you can, because as we mentioned, styles do change. The other thing that I see quite a bit is how much people spend. And so when everyone sees a remodel, they think, add 3 zeros to whatever my number is. And they don't realize how much they can get away with and get things done for that doesn't cost a detrimental amount. And like we said, that changes the value of the property. It's still the same upgrade, but how much did I pay to do it? And now it doesn't matter what I make back, it cost me too much. In any event, guys, I think this has been a great show on value and appraisal. I'd like to thank my people, Steve, Mark, and Tim. We are very excited to have you here on Real Men in Real Estate. As always, if you've missed this show or any other show, you can head back to our downloadable content on Roku and Amazon Fire. And if you'd like to head to our website, realmenofrealestate.com, check us out there. We'll see you next time here on Real Men in Real Estate.